let's segue a little bit into your multi because I think that's where the conversation would naturally go. Initially, I was met with a little bit of okay, another multi,
Yeah.
um, and after taking a really good look at it, I went, wow, another multi. The formulation really had a lot of thought put behind it, and again, just going back to your days with Progressive, I think recapping how Progressive really revolutionized multivitamins because when you first started, correct me if I'm wrong, everything was a large, bedpan bullet, solid
Oh yeah.
mass pill. And
For
what did you
sure.
do with Progressive?
For sure, for sure, and that was one of my babies, the multifamily. When we launched Progressive, that was my baby, literally. The first product I used, getting me into the supplement category, was a multivitamin way back when, probably when I was around 16 years old. So I'm going to date myself, but and I haven't stopped using a multivitamin since, and that's been 30 some odd years. We'll leave it at that. But yeah, I mean, and the science has changed. So, but unfortunately, even though the science has changed, you still find a lot of those one-a-day tablets on the market. And, I would say there's really nothing wrong with those. And they can be a segue or an introductory piece to get people into the category and introduce to the category, and that's fine. So I think, from that perspective, they can serve a purpose. But the science has evolved and it has changed. We all have different needs. At different times of day and different days. So I think, that was one of the driving things behind the Progressive vitamins and launching those, age, gender, and activity-specific formulas. It was how do we look at the category and do things a little differently and maybe a little better for consumers, and that's what we did. And I took that same approach. 20 years later, let's look at the category and what do we know about the category today, and how do we do things a little better and a little differently. To offer consumers something that is a bit more current, and I wouldn't say, well, maybe even better value, if you will. And that's where we landed with the high performance multi. And I think we did a pretty good job with it, just in terms of updating, the vitamin forms, the mineral forms, some of the botanicals that are in it. Really to make it current, in keeping with the science and the current research, and that's changing all the time. And this might change in 3 or 4 years. It might evolve. As again, I'm doing this for me and for myself. So as I learn more, that will be incorporated into the brand, into the product. So nothing. I don't expect things to be static. I expect things to evolve as science continues to come to the forefront.
Well, what I find interesting is that most of our quote unquote top multis, and we have some really good products on the shelf now, especially compared to where we were 5 years ago. A lot of them require 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 capsules to take. And in the case of a vitamin pack, they're doing a lot more. There's EFAs and stuff inside of it. So that's not what I'm speaking of. I'm thinking of your higher dose. So for example, 6 capsules of the multi I'm currently using is what I'm requiring. Yet when I look at your label, yours is dosed between 2 and 4.
Yes.
Yet you're still hitting, for example, 30 milligrams of high absorbable zinc. You're not running trace amounts. You're not hitting 2 or 3 micrograms, for example, of some of those key ingredients.
That's
When
right.
I look at your add-ons, and actually, I won't even get into that. I'll stick with the basic vitamins and minerals. I'm just looking over at my other screen right now, which won't be visible to the viewer. But even, for example, here you're utilizing vitamin K1 and K2, which is not in a lot of vitamins. Maybe speak to the K1, K2 story as it relates to vitamin D, because I think that's actually interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And I've got a bit of experience on the, just looking at the professional side of the business, the landscape with brands that are typically found in naturopathic offices and that sort of thing. So some of those, some of what we've incorporated into this, I've drawn from that space as well, which I think is fairly unique and I think does offer not only value from a dollars and cents perspective, but benefit for consumers. But the vitamin K1, vitamin K2 is a big one. It's important, and the importance will continue to become apparent as science surrounding K2 becomes more available. So K1 is that's been in multis for decades, and that's the clotting factor. Basically promotes blood clotting, and it's readily available in the diet. Most people aren't deficient in vitamin K1. K2 is the big one. That's the one that is a bit more challenging to absorb and to obtain from the diet. And K2 is the one that has dramatic impacts on cardiovascular disease, specifically, channeling calcium from the bloodstream into the bones, which is where you want it. You don't want it, proliferating in your bloodstream, blocking your arteries.
Yeah.
So that's something
That's a bad thing, eh?
that is a very bad thing for sure, and your joints and leading to arthritis and other issues. So that's really important. So you need vitamin K2 for that. So I mean, if you're going to take a calcium supplement, just a side note, make sure that you're taking a lot of vitamin K2 or it's built into the formula. There's issues with diabetes, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome that are impacted by K2 deficiencies, cancer and K2 deficiencies, and a lot of this research is in its infancy, but it is coming out. So the importance of vitamin K2 is it's certainly critically important, but the knowledge surrounding that is really going to be hitting the market and becoming more mainstream over the next few years.
When I think of ATP Labs, they actually offer vitamin D with K2 added to it. And their D formula, I always thought that was really unique that they added it into it. So by having that K2 in here, and you're obviously the vitamin D in a multivitamin is never super high. But why would K2 and D3 be so important together?
Well, D3 is the other one that's involved with calcium metabolism. So you do want to make sure that if you are consuming calcium, in any amount, you've got your vitamin D and your vitamin K2 to really make sure that it's going to the right places in the body, and that is in your bones and not ending up in your joints and in your arteries and veins.
Awesome. When I go through the rest of the vitamin as well, we move on to the mineral side of it, and actually even on the vitamin side, for example, you're utilizing what look to be better forms from a standard multivitamin. And I think that's where you're going after, for example, Douglas Labs or AOR. Maybe speak to the type of forms you use in the vitamins and, of course, the chelation in the minerals.
Yeah, so the B vitamins, that's probably for me one of the biggest areas that I look to improve on. Again, there's so many vitamins in the marketplace, and I think they all provide benefit to consumers for sure. But the B vitamins and the research behind B vitamins of the last 5 or 6 years has really vastly improved, and specifically with respect to the forms of B vitamins. So there's your conventional forms, which are found in most vitamins out there, and then you have what are called the methylated or activated forms of B vitamins. They're important because, well, for a couple of reasons, and they have to do with conversion rates. So when you're taking a standard B vitamin, your body may or may not be able to convert that B vitamin into an active form. So it's not about digestion, going through the gastrointestinal tract into your bloodstream. It's about going from your bloodstream into a form that your body can actually absorb and use properly. So that is really the key difference there, is that we're providing a 50-50 blend of both forms, the conventional form and the activated form. Most brands do not provide any of the activated Bs. There are a couple out there in the health food space that are starting to incorporate that. There are a few in the professional space, as we mentioned, that are incorporating that as well. But again, the reason that's important is very simple. 33% of the population is lacking the gene that enables your body to convert that standard B vitamin into an active methylated form. So already 33% of the population can't use a standard, or will not make efficient use of a standard a B complex that's in a multivitamin. Then you add in, you look at environmental issues, factors, stress, nutrient deficiencies for the rest of the population, and your conversion rates are going to vary on a day-to-day level based on all those other factors. So I would say that 33% that can't convert is probably more like 50% on any given day because of all of those other factors. So for me, it was critically important and obvious to provide something that's already in an active form that the body can use and make use of. And it's critical with B vitamins. They're involved in just about every metabolic process in the body. I'm getting a bit long-winded here, but that really is one of the key features of this product here. It's the activated forms of B vitamins. And there are other impacts in terms of mental health and depression that are impacted by your body's ability to use B vitamins properly. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Maybe to touch on the minerals too, like I'm just looking at your forms here. You have zinc citrate, copper citrate, boron citrate. There's a lot of citrates mentioned inside of there. For example, with your calcium, you're utilizing multiple form, ascorbate, malate. Let's just talk about those forms for a little bit. The salt forms you've got attached into it, just in a very simple way for the listeners to understand. What was the premise there?
For sure. The premise there was straightforward. It was providing the most absorbable forms of those minerals possible. And that really was it. And there's several different forms that are fairly well absorbed. Calcium citrate. Typically, you're looking for a citrate or a Krebs cycle intermediate. Chelates are okay as well. But I really wanted to get away from calcium carbonate, magnesium oxide. Those are the two big ones that I have a big issue with. They're in most multivitamin supplements out there. And, they're used for a couple of reasons, cost being one, but they enable, just in terms of the molecule size, calcium carbonate, the molecule provides a greater amount of elemental calcium than most other forms of calcium. So you look at calcium citrate, it's about 22% calcium. Calcium carbonate is about 32% calcium. So you're able to pack in more calcium, but it's not as well absorbed. Calcium carbonate is rock. It's inorganic, as we talked about or touched on earlier. So for me, it was all about absorption. Giving you 500 milligrams of calcium carbonate really didn't make any sense. So for me, again, it was providing the best that was out there based on current research, and it really came down to absorption, what your body was going to absorb the most of. And in some cases, we've got a few different forms, magnesium citrate and bisglycinate, but that was the focus with the mineral blend, was providing the best, most absorbable forms.
Yeah, so we're running super high absorbable forms of vitamins and minerals, and then we move into what I thought was pretty amazing was your additions. So your antioxidant complex. I think the big one for me was the 50 milligrams of coenzyme Q10, which for a multivitamin is actually a pretty large dose. Amazing for heart health, potent antioxidant. And you combine that with astaxanthin and zeaxanthin. I can never pronounce the Z one.
Zeaxanthin, yes, I can't.
Yeah.
I struggle as well.
Yes, yeah, and then with the lycopene, lutein, like just what a great combination. So was that just, was that kind of just ticking off boxes, or what those ranges, numbers, what made you pick those ones?
Aging is a concern. And I've been active my entire life. As a young kid, I'm still active today. I would like to be active until the end. And quality of life is the most important thing. It's not longevity on its own, it's quality of life. And and that's basically something that really has underlined the entire development process of all of these products. It's, how are these products going to help me live a longer, healthier life, right? Mm-hmm. So the superfood, I think, checks a lot of boxes in that regard. The multivitamin, again, that same approach was involved in this, and specifically, and this does tie into the energy activator, it's your mitochondrial health. And without getting into the details of the mitochondrial theory of aging, your body's ability to produce ATP is critical from the moment you're born or conceived until the moment that you die. And as we get older, our cellular metabolism, our cellular activity does break down, due to oxidation primarily. And that's one of the reasons why antioxidants are so important, is to maintain our cellular health and our mitochondrial health at that. So, so this antioxidant blend really is designed to support mitochondrial health and the ability of your cells, your mitochondria, to produce ATP, to produce it well and in amounts that you need to live longer and healthy. So it wasn't an accident. It wasn't just checking off boxes, not at all. And CoQ10 in particular, grapeseed extract, resveratrol, they all have strong clinicals in terms of their ability to support mitochondrial health.
Yeah, and they're not small doses. They're, like, again, at 4 capsules, you're hitting quite a large assay. And I think by being focused on vitamins, minerals, and core anti-aging ingredients, I think that allowed you to give less capsules. And I think that's an understated, and maybe a very small understated part of this whole presentation, but a vitamin for someone who eats super well, maybe they're taking the organic greens, superfood blends that you have, well, then they could get away with 2 of these capsules because they're hitting all those boxes. If someone who's maybe just taking the multivitamin, then you'd recommend a 4 capsule dosage. Or if someone is uber active and they're taking both, you could do the same thing. So, would you say that's a good dosing strategy, or would you adapt anything I said?
That is exactly the dosing strategy behind this here. So 2 to 4 capsules a day. Most days I'll take 4 capsules of this. I start every day off with the superfood powder, regardless of what I'm doing. And most days I'm taking 4 capsules. Some days I'll take 2 or 3. So when you look at the total between the superfood and this, it provides what I need. My wife will take 2 capsules of the multi and a scoop of the superfood in the morning. My teenage kids will take 2 capsules of the multi every day. They may not use the superfood every day. They're not as diligent there, but that is exactly it. It's providing you something that you can tailor from a dosage perspective based on your day-to-day activity. regardless of your gender and or your age, because this does provide all of the basic building blocks that we need, regardless of age, gender, and activity. So it's really the core, the starting point, and then you add on from there with respect to additional things that you might need to supplement with.